I stand in front of the well house, shaking with cold and fear. Goosebumps cover my arms and chest, exposed to the late autumn chill. Should have taken a coat, I think absently, curling my hands into fists at my sides, bunching the worn fabric of my dress in clammy palms. Of course, I'd had other things to worry about at that moment. The village doctor and the woman who'd found Joshua, face down in the river, were still in my kitchen surrounding the lifeless body of my son. If they had known what I planned to do, they would have stopped me. I couldn't allow that. My husband had died 2 winters ago, and my little boy was the only family I had left. And now, there's only me. I pushed the horrifying thought aside, forcing myself to focus on the building before me. The well house sits low and squat in the tall grass, surrounded by trees with thick, solid trunks and dense canopies of leaves. They grow closely around the building, branches interwoven in a dark mass that blocks out the stars above me. Gnarled roots snake along the edges of the structure, creeping their way through small cracks in the mossy stone walls. It makes the well house seem like a natural part of the woods, growing in the soil like the trees around it. This is a very old place, part of the village that had stood here before my own. Though most of the other buildings had become crumbling mounds of loosely ordered stone, the well house remains mostly intact, weathered but solid. My people believe it holds great power, for in it resides something far more ancient than even the abandoned village: the Water Witch. My breath comes in a slight pant, and my skin stings from the many cuts I accumulated running through the forest to the old village. But my physical discomfort is secondary to my main concern, the unspeakable tragedy that has brought me to this place. My baby, gone. A terrible ache fills my chest and sends hot, desperate tears of grief pouring down my wind-chapped cheeks. I must save him, whatever it takes. Still, I hesitate, unwilling to enter the well house. All my life, I have been told stories of the creature that calls this place home. She is said to be thousands of years old, the last of an ancient race that had once ruled this region. Some kind of spirit or nymph who inhabits the waters in the area. Part protector and part temptress, she guards the water and all who reside in it, but also serves a much darker purpose. The witch is in fact a siren, leading men astray only to drown them in the deep waters. She seems to particularly prefer those who have survived shipwrecks or near drownings, men who escape watery graves only to be lured back into them by the vision of beauty in the form they most desire. While the Water Witch's motivations are poorly understood, her power is feared. The nymph doesn't just live in the water, she is the water. Not just in her well, but in every lake, river, and stream from here to the next village, almost 3 days' ride away. She also guards the stretch of coastline to the east, and if the few survivors and witnesses are to be believed, at least some of the deep ocean beyond. My people have always allowed her to live in peace and privacy, giving her well house a wide berth. Some leave occasional offerings for her at the water's edge, which go untouched until the animals take them. But tonight, I intend to do the unthinkable, to break the unwritten rules and try to speak to the witch herself. As I stand there surrounded by shadows, crisp wind carrying the scent of decaying leaves and peat to my nose, my survival instincts scream at me to turn and run like a frightened rabbit. But the agony of my loss far outweighs my terror, so I think of my little boy and let the primal need to protect my child fill me. It washes away my fear and hesitation, lending me the resolve I so desperately need. The resolve Joshua needs. Steeling myself, I take 3 steps to the door and push my way into the darkness. After a brief moment of terrifying blackness, my eyes begin to adjust. Small holes in the roof let slivers of light through, casting a pale glow over the cracked stone and wood that makes up the structure. The old well sits in the middle of the room, as high as my waist. It's made of rough-hewn gray and black rocks, cut into a circle at least the width of a man's wingspan. The air is still and smells of peat and dirt, stale from years of neglect. The well house is utterly quiet, except for my own shaky breathing. Hello? Is anyone here? When there is no answer, I begin to panic, certain I've been following a path to a dead end. Now what will I do? I cannot live without him. At the thought of my son truly being gone forever, a sob escapes me. It echoes off the walls, filling the room with the sound of my grief. A soft noise breaks my rapidly spiraling train of thought, a gentle splashing coming from the bottom of the well. With bated breath and dread suffusing every ounce of my being, I slowly and cautiously approach. Stopping as far back as I can, I lean forward to look over the lip of stone, down into the base of the well. There, just below the surface, a vague shape, spanning almost the full width of the well. Is it moving? I step forwards warily, poking my head over the edge, and a tear rolls off my cheek. It glimmers in the dim light as it falls to join the pool below. As the teardrop reaches the water, sending ripples across its surface, the shape begins to move. It surges up toward me with incredible speed, a spray of water arching up as it breaches. I jump back with a startled scream, shielding my face with a raised arm. The dark shape lands in front of the well with a surprisingly light thud, rising up to tower above my cringing form. Though the well house is filled with shadows, there is enough light to discern that the water witch is inhumanly beautiful. She wears a deep green dress, the color of seaweed that clings to her like wet fabric. Her hair is a brilliant, ultramarine blue. It hangs down to her waist in a mass of untamed waves, dry in spite of the water she just emerged from. In fact, she doesn't appear to be sodden at all. Not even the faintest gleam of moisture is visible on her cyan skin. She regards me with sapphire eyes flecked with white, like the ocean itself is trapped beneath her lashes. After a brief pause, she speaks in a voice that reminds me of a still lake, calm and gentle on the surface, but with an unfathomable depth I instinctively know to fear. You taste of loss, little mad woman. I stand there with my mouth agape, unsure how to respond. At length, I find my voice, but all I manage to say is, I'm not mad. The witch laughs, a pleasant sound strangely reminiscent of a babbling creek, and turns to walk around the left side of the well. Of course you are, young one. Only a madwoman would seek a witch of the water, especially a woman who tastes of grief. As she speaks, she trails her fingers along the stone lip, slowly circling it as her eyes take in the state of the decrepit building. In her wake, thin streams of water decorate the floor and well's edge, as if it's emanating from her skin itself. Though I want to argue with the nymph, I must admit that she has a point, and more importantly, a potential resolution for my terrible tragedy. I have come to ask for your help, I whisper, my voice hoarse with emotion. My son, he was playing by the river with some of the village boys, and somehow I trail off with a sob, unable to finish my sentence. She chimes in, apparently unfazed by my blabbering nonsense. He drowned in my river. Yes, I know. I am sorry you lost him. I am surprised to hear genuine sympathy in the nymph's voice. I had always pictured her as a cold, terrifying being. To hear gentleness and kindness in her tone fills me with nascent hope. Thank you, I sniff, wiping at my raw cheeks with the rough sleeve of my dress. But it's not good enough. I want to make a deal. I want my son back. I shake, my throat tight and burning as hot tears stream down my face, wetting my neck and soaking into my collar. The witch fixes me with an unreadable gaze, leaning on the well across from me. What you ask is no small feat, mad woman. What makes you think I can restore life to your boy? My heart sinks at her question, but I cling to my hopes like a drowning woman. You are the river, both its guardian and its spirit. Surely there must be something you can do. Please, I beg you. Joshua is all I have left in this world. I cannot bear to lose him. She is quiet for a moment, then answers, her expressions guarded. What you ask is technically possible, but you would not be making the deal with me. You'll need an old god for this. I frown, struggling to understand. Not with you? What do you mean? I don't know any old gods. Panic rides me hard, filling my head with thoughts of living out the rest of my life alone, grieving my husband and a 9-year-old who were once the center of my world. The nymph gives me a serious look. You don't, but I do. My master is one of the old ones. He may be able to help you, but I must warn you, the price will be high. I nod my head eagerly, renewed hope blossoming within. I'll do anything, I say, dimly aware that I am making a dangerous promise. The nymph opens her mouth as if to speak, but no words emerge. Instead, I hear a song, one that is strangely familiar to me. A thought enters my head, unbidden and nonsensical. This isn't how it happened. A sudden sense of déjà vu invades me as I find myself being pulled from my memory of the well house. The witch and her warning fade away as I'm whisked far away from the village and the forest that surrounds it. I am weightless, only my spirit left to travel past what was once my own home, just down the street from the shops in the center of town, past the fields on the outskirts of what was once my village, past people I had once known. I fly all over the landscape at inhuman speeds, feeling nothing but the magnetic pull that draws me to the ocean beyond. The song is loud in my ears, growing clearer and more recognizable with every second. The déjà vu is fading, replaced by the clarity of remembrance as my duty overcomes my dream. A crack of thunder rings out across the hills as I shook past the eastern bend of the river, following to where it meets the ocean. The sky above me is dark and ominous, lightning forking across clouds the color of ash. Rain pours down like it's attacking the ground below, violent in its intensity. I pass trees leaning at precarious angles, powerful gusts of wind bending them almost to the point of snapping. I feel none of it, of course, disembodied as I am. It is not my place to feel here, only to seek. I'm catapulted over the river's mouth, soaring above the roiling ocean. The storm has turned the calm waters wild. Massive waves swell and pound against anything in reach, rising from the ocean with fury, as if they rage against the sky itself. The storm's song is powerful, and I can feel the old god's hunger in its notes. I am pulled further out, not quite to the deep ocean, but close. Though I know what I am looking for, it still takes me a moment to find the ship amongst the towering waves. It bobs along like a child's toy, incomprehensibly small compared to the ocean whose surface it travels on. I drop down towards it, diving like a hawk sighting prey, and come to a halt just above the deck. There I hover, floating by the mast the crew is lashed to. "Brace yourselves! Here comes a big one," the captain screams over the howling winds, his voice nearly lost before it could reach his men, standing at his back. Though there are at least a score of sailors on board, I only feel drawn to a handful. The captain, a rotund man with an apron who must be the cook, and the boy on the leftmost side of the mast with a mop of sodden red hair, gripping a Bible to his thin chest. But most of all, a skinny young man with brown eyes who presses himself to the great wooden pole with obvious force. His fingers curl into claws, clinging desperately to the rough-hewn rope looped around him and the rest of the crew, holding them firmly to their only hope of survival. Though his terror is overwhelmingly apparent, it is not what draws me to him. It's his loss, the desperate, aching loneliness that fills his heart and weighs down his soul. All the men who have summoned me here carry it in one form or another, and it is that heaviness that my master desires. The call of the lost, that which I am bound to answer. It seems the old god is determined to have them, for I can see their ship being driven closer to shore. I follow along, an invisible onlooker as they are sacrificed to the one I serve. It is he who has brought me here, not just to bear witness, but to finish the job, to follow where he cannot and bring back those who escape him. The brown-eyed man turns his head to the side and presses his cheek against the mast hard, heedless of how it strains his neck and scratches his skin raw, making it sting from the salt of the water. Against his better judgment, he looks back over the railing of the ship and lets out a low whimper of fear, which is promptly whisked away by the storm. A wall of water rises up, barreling forward with no regard for the tiny ship it looms over. Like a dark cliff face, blacking out the night sky as it crashes down with terrible might. It rocks the boat violently and drenches the sailors, leaving them gasping and coughing as it recedes off the sides of the deck. The captain, an older man with graying hair, has a scar that ran the length of his right cheek, grips the wheel, his knuckles white from strain. All his force is nothing compared to the power of the ocean, but he fights with the strength of a dying man, desperate to do anything that will keep them afloat. He tugs on the rope holding him to the wheel, reassured by the tautness of the line. Okay, you guys are going to absolutely hate me. There's a lot more to this story, but I am going to leave you guys on a cliffhanger. Yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do to you right now. Oh god, I'm sorry. Anyway, keep an eye out for part 2. It will be out very soon. Very long story, incredibly written, and I'm enjoying it very much. I only skimmed it a little bit before I actually started to narrate it, because I do like to, like to kind of be surprised and read, feel the emotion for the first time whenever I narrate it. So I didn't read much of it. I just kind of, as I said, skimmed it. But I am so into this story. I'll put the author's information in the description so that you can find her. Again, amazing writing, amazing story. And I am really excited to continue this and get on to the next part. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Keep an eye out for part 2. And thank you so much for being here. And I will see you next time.